Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week?
In an article written by Keka Arujo on the #1 Black enterprise, we learned that a white playwright, Claire Koss, has created a theatrical production based on the brutal killings of 14-year-old Emmett Till. The play will audaciously tell Till's story through the eyes of a fictional white high school teacher in Mississippi, Roanne Taylor. Roanne is portrayed as progressive as the character, quote, is against Jim Crow laws, segregation, and racial inequality, end quote. The play will chronicle how Roanne feels horrible as she navigates racism, but she keeps her mouth shut. Seemingly centering herself, Koss stated that Till's death significantly impacted her while she was a student at Louisiana State University, Baton Rouge campus. She said that she felt compelled to keep telling Emmett's story. Quote, Emmett Till is in our lifetime. He is in my lifetime. I want people to understand the grave parallels between the world over 60 years ago to today's world, from Emmett Till to Trayvon Martin to Dante Wright. It is still happening, and we must continue to shed light on these stories. I am reminded of Mamie Till Mobley's words. The world must see what was done to my son. The world must help me tell the story. And so we will. Black folks on Twitter rightfully gave Koss the business for even creating Emmett Till, a new American opera. Arujo goes on to say that Till's death is synonymous with the very plague that continues to harm Black people. Instead of insisting on telling our stories, maybe progressive white people would fare better centering the atrocities of their people without involving us. But I'm going to pass the conversation off to you. Is this her place to tell this story, or is it just another case of white savior syndrome?
Daquan, all I have to say is, bitch, you better be joking. Um, this this isn't white savior syndrome because the white person in the play isn't saving a Black character. I think what this play is giving is so much worse than that because it's capitalizing on the horrific tragedy of Emmett Till for clout and money while also centering a white voice and character as the narrative storyteller. A story literally titled Emmett Till, an American Opera, isn't even about Emmett Till. It's about how uncomfortable his lynching makes a white woman feel. Like, I think the fuck not. I mean, I've discussed this before on my TikTok, but I think it bears repeating. There has been a serious problem with supposed allies invading a space that they are supposed to be uplifting and co-opting said space as their own. As an ally, your job is to protect and amplify the voices of the marginalized communities that you're defending. You are never supposed to be their voice. This is a classic case of performative allyship and white guilt. This white woman feels bad for racism and felt compelled to keep telling Emmett Till's story. But apparently her compulsion wasn't strong enough to keep her from censoring herself as a white character within a story depicting Black trauma. I mean, even in the description of the main character, it says that she is intended to represent what Martin Luther King Jr. called the ultimate tragedy, the silence of good people. And let me tell you a secret, Claire. We don't need a play about the silence of supposedly good people because as marginalized people, we see it every single day. We don't need an opera that highlights the fact that there are people in this world who see that there is a problem, know that they don't want it for themselves or people they love, and do nothing to stop it. This is evident everywhere in our society. So yet another example of white people doing nothing to stop racism is just a drop in the ocean of apathy that we've seen in the system of white supremacy. So I'm going to say this, and white people, please hear me loud and clear. We don't give a fuck about how guilty you are about slavery and racism, because your guilt alone has done nothing to dismantle the system your ancestors created that continues to marginalize people. Feeling bad isn't the same as making amends. And I'm not alone in this. A petition created by John Jay College student Maya Bishop on change.org calls for the cancellation of the upcoming premiere of Emmett Till, an American Opera, and it has garnered over 13,000 signatures as of March 25th, 2022. Bishop says in the petition, telling the story from a perspective of a fictional progressive white woman shows that Claire Koss is more concerned with showing the audience that not all white people are bad than she is about the ongoing fight for racial justice. And the casting of adult tenor Robert Mack in the role of Till has also drawn controversy, with the petition asserting that it exacerbates the adultification of Black children, which has historically led to their brutalization. I think that my thoughts are perfectly encapsulated in the statement on the petition. If we are going to tell the story of Emmett Till, it should be from a Black perspective, a Black writer, and with permission and approval from Till's family. But I'm going to pass it back to you, Daquon. Do you think it was her place to tell the story?
Is that even a question? Like, as I was reading the question, I was like, I don't even know if I can get through this question, because it's no secret that this is not her place at all, because it's just so tiring to have stories about Black trauma centering white people. Like, this story is not for you to tell. You are telling a story about a Black person being lynched as a white playwright. Like, that's already just like, okay, there can be some problems there, but let's see how they add nuance and everything like that. And then you decided to make the narrative focus this white teacher who feels bad. And it's like, I agree with the petition that this sends a message that the most important part of this story is looking to the past and being like, it wasn't everybody that was racist. There were good people. And it's like, people know that. People know that, everybody doesn't have the same mindset during a specific time. Like, that shouldn't even need to be said, because it's frankly understood. The biggest problem is that this is just another conversation that I hate to have, but like, I am so tired of people misusing Black activist words.
Ooh, Daquon,
Like,
go off, Daquon, go off, Daquon.
When she quoted Till Mobley, I was just like, you frankly misunderstood the entire concept of the quote, because it says the world must help me tell the story. The world must help me tell the story. Help. Not the world must tell the story. The world must help. So as you being the ally that you are, being a help does not mean telling the story based off of your own experience. You helping is uplifting Black voices who are already telling the story. You helping is uplifting Black voices and experiences who are experiencing this still to this day. And it's one of these things that, as a writer, I can't imagine, but I can't imagine how you write a story like this. Because as somebody that does talk about a lot of Black death in my work, it's so heavy of a topic to talk about. And it's also something that I talked about in one of my poems about, like, how uncomfortable it is to basically hold somebody's life in your hands, in your mouth, as you are speaking this story, as you are putting pen to paper. You are literally carrying a dead body into this world, and you have to deal with that. And you put it out into this world to have people look at you and be like, wow, this was great. You are so great. And you're profiting off of somebody else's death. You're profiting off of somebody else's lynching. Like, that's hard for me to deal with. But you, Claire Koss, as a white person, Out of here. Get out of here. No.
I fully agree, Daquon. I knew you were gonna say something when I saw her use that Teal Mobley quote. I knew you were. I was like, Daquon about to pop off. But I fully agree with what you said. I think that I am just honestly, I am so tired of white people profiting off of Black suffering. I I'm tired of seeing our trauma dramatized for film and TV over and over and over and over again. Now, make no mistake, we do need to learn about the horrific nature of America's past in regard to slavery to ensure that that type of tragedy never occurs again. However, we have an overwhelming number of current day examples of the brutality against Black people in the news and on social media to re-traumatize us for generations to come. We don't need any more fictional depictions of it.
Right. Or even just like going back to the quote, like this happened 60 years ago. There are people alive who saw that. There are people alive who witnessed that, who were adults during when that happened, that are frankly serving in our government in certain roles, but that's another conversation. But that's all to say that there are literally people who have that experience, who live through it, and are seeing the after effects of it, are seeing what they experienced during that time happen over and over again. And those are the voices that need to be centered.
Exactly. I think Emmett Till's story has been told. It is out in the world, and we should absolutely never forget the atrocity that took place in Mississippi on August 28th, 1955. But a white woman believing that she is the appropriate storyteller for the story of a Black child who was murdered because of the lies of a white woman does not sit right in my soul. Okay. She crossed the line, point blank, period. In simpler terms, how would you feel if someone murdered your loved one because of prejudice and I took it upon myself to write a story about how their murder, it made me feel bad to hear about it. And I just want people to know that I was sorry that it happened. I don't know, Daquon, that sounds a little self-centered to me, don't you?
Oh,
Just a touch.
absolutely. It's more than a touch.
I know.
It is entirely self-centering. And I also think that in this situation, we have to consider, like, as a writer, you write for an audience. And
Exactly.
it's like, who is the audience that this is supposed to go out to? Because the only audience I can think of is white people that cannot empathize with Black people. And if that's your audience for this story, it's going to fall on deaf ears because they already don't empathize with Black people. So hearing it from a white perspective is not going to awaken the ally in them, not going to awaken the activist in them. If anything, they're going to be like, oh, well, like, it's sad, but whatever, we're past that, you know?